Despite working long hours for meager wages, Lily had a special habit that made her stand out. Every night after her shift, she would gather any leftover food and take it to the homeless people she passed on her walk home. To her, it was just a small act of kindness. But to those she helped, it meant the world. One evening, the city was battered by rain. The storm poured relentlessly, soaking the streets and making the already cold night even more unbearable. Lily, hurrying home, clutched her old jacket tightly around herself, trying to shield against the chill. As she passed a bus stop, she noticed a small figure huddled under the shelter. A young boy, no older than 8, was shivering, his clothes drenched through. Her heart ached at the sight, and she knelt beside him. "Hey there," she said softly, her voice full of concern. "Are you okay? Where are your parents?" The boy looked up at her, his face pale and terrified. "I don't have anyone," he whispered. "I'm hungry." Without hesitation, Lily took the boy's hand, leading him back to the diner. The rain soaked them both, but it didn't matter to her. Once inside, she wrapped him in a warm blanket and served him a steaming bowl of soup. As the boy devoured the meal, his face lit up, and for the first time that night, Lily felt a warmth spread through her chest, despite the cold. Unbeknownst to Lily, someone had been watching her. Across the street, a sleek black car was parked, its engine idling softly. Inside sat James Dalton, a billionaire renowned for his sharp business acumen and private nature. He had been driving through the area, hoping that the quiet streets would help clear his mind after a stressful day. But then he saw her. At first, his interest was merely curiosity. Why was this young woman, drenched in the rain, kneeling beside a homeless boy? But as he watched her take the boy to the diner, caring for him with such selflessness, he couldn't look away. Her actions were so genuine, so pure, that something inside him stirred. "Who is she?" James murmured to himself, his gaze fixed on the diner. For the first time in years, he felt something deep within him, a sense of wonder, a feeling he couldn't quite explain. He scribbled down the name of the diner and drove away, but Lily's image stayed with him long after he returned to his luxurious penthouse. In the following days, Lily's life became a blur. Between juggling double shifts at the diner and taking care of her younger brother, who depended on her to pay for his school fees, she barely had time to think about the boy she had helped. But his smiles stayed with her, offering a source of strength to push through her exhaustion. Meanwhile, James couldn't stop thinking about the waitress. He had everything money could buy, yet he couldn't shake the image of her, soaking wet in the rain, offering warmth and kindness to someone with nothing. It wasn't just her actions that captivated him, it was the purity of her heart. He had to know more about her. One evening, James made a decision. Dressed in a tailored suit that seemed out of place for a diner, he walked into Rosie's. The bell above the door jingled softly, catching Lily's attention. She was balancing a tray of plates, her hair slightly frizzy from the humidity, but her smile still shone as bright as ever. James froze for a moment, struck by the familiarity of her face. Lily greeted him with the same warmth she offered all her customers. "Welcome to Rosie's. Please have a seat anywhere you'd like," she said cheerfully, despite the exhaustion in her eyes. James chose a corner booth, his gaze following her every move as she worked. Lily treated everyone with the same kindness he had witnessed that rainy night, helping an elderly customer count their change, offering a free coffee refill to a mother struggling with her children, and even pausing to check on a couple who looked down on their luck. She was the very embodiment of selflessness, and James couldn't look away. The next morning, the diner buzzed with its usual activity. Lily tied on her apron, getting ready for her shift, though her mind was still preoccupied with the homeless man she had helped a few days ago. She hoped he had found a safe place to rest, but her focus quickly shifted back to the customers entering for breakfast. Around midday, the door to the restaurant swung open, and a tall, sharply dressed man walked in. His tailored suit and polished shoes stood out among the casual diners. At first, Lily didn't notice him. She was busy taking an elderly couple's order. But when the hostess approached and whispered to her, "That gentleman over there asked for you to be a server," Lily glanced up, surprised. She didn't recognize him right away, but when their eyes met, she felt an unexpected sense of familiarity. The man smiled warmly, his gaze lingering as though he was studying her. Lily shrugged off the odd feeling and approached his table, her notepad and pen in hand. "Good afternoon," she said, using her usual friendly tone. "What can I get you today?" The man hesitated for a moment before responding. "I'll take the special of the day, but only if you promise to take a break and join me for coffee later." Lily blinked, caught off guard by his request. "Oh, I'm sorry, but I don't usually take breaks during my shift. Is there anything else you'd like with your orders?" The man chuckled. "Just the special for now," he said, handing her the menu. As Lily walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about him was different. It was as if he knew her, yet chose not to reveal it. As the meal progressed, the man watched Lily closely. He saw how she treated every customer with patience and kindness, no matter how busy or stressful it got. She moved with practiced ease, balancing trays, smiling at even the grumpiest diners, and checking on everyone's table to make sure they were satisfied. To him, it was clear Lily wasn't just hardworking, she was extraordinary. When Lily brought him his bill, he reached into his wallet and pulled out a credit card. But just as she turned to leave, he stopped her. "Wait," he said, his voice softer now. "There's something I'd like to ask you." Lily paused, tilting her head in curiosity. "Yes." The man leaned forward slightly, his eyes studying her intently. "Do you remember helping a homeless man on the street last week?" Lily's eyes widened in surprise. "Yes, I do," she replied, her voice a mix of confusion and curiosity. "How do you know about that?" He smiled knowingly, his expression calm and confident. "Let's just say, I saw it." The man shook his head firmly. "Not everyone would have done what you did," he said, his voice steady. "Most people would have just walked by without a second thought." He handed her a folded piece of paper along with the bill. "This is for you," he said. "Open it after I leave." Lily stared at the paper, confused but too polite to refuse. She watched as the man stood up, gave her one last warm smile, and walked out of the restaurant. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she quickly unfolded the note. Inside, there was a check for $50,000. Beneath the staggering amount, a handwritten message read, "Your kindness has inspired me. Use this to create the future you deserve. A grateful stranger." Lily's heart raced as she clutched the check, her hands trembling. She ran outside, scanning the street for any sign of the man, but he was already gone. Her mind was swirling with questions. Who was he? Why would he give her such an unbelievable gift? And why did he seem so familiar? That night, as she sat in her tiny apartment, Lily couldn't stop thinking about the mysterious man. She wanted to return the check. After all, it was far too much money for her to accept, but there was no contact information on the note. She had no way of reaching him, and the uncertainty left her feeling lost. Days turned into weeks, and Lily's life slowly began to change. With the money, she paid off her debts and started saving for her dream of opening a small cafe, a place where everyone, including the homeless, could find a warm meal and a welcoming smile. But even as her dreams were starting to come true, she still wondered about the man who had given her the chance to turn her life around. Then, one day, as she was walking home from the restaurant, a sleek black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, and there he was, the generous stranger from the restaurant. "I hoped I'd find you," he said with a grin. Lily stopped in her tracks, her heart pounding in her chest. "You again?" she asked, her voice full of confusion. "Why did you give me that money? Who are you?" The man stepped out of the car, his expression serious but kind. "I owe you an explanation," he said. "My name is Andrew Hale. I'm the CEO of Hale Enterprises." Lily's jaw dropped. Hale Enterprises was one of the largest companies in the country, and Andrew Hale was a well-known billionaire. "I didn't tell you who I was," Andrew continued, "because I wanted to see how you'd react. I've spent years building wealth, but I've never seen anyone as selfless as you. Helping that homeless boy wasn't just an act of kindness. It showed who you truly are." Lily was speechless, struggling to process everything he was saying. But why would someone like you care about me? I'm just a waitress. Andrew smiled warmly. You're far more than that, he said. You have a heart that money can't buy. And I believe the world needs more people like you. He handed her an envelope. This is a deed to a small cafe downtown. It's yours now. Consider it an investment in someone who deserves it. Tears welled up in Lily's eyes. She tried to refuse, but Andrew insisted. Just promise me one thing, he said softly. Keep being the person who inspired me. Keep helping others. From that day forward, Lily's life transformed. Her cafe became a haven for those in need, just as she had always dreamed. And though she never fully understood why fate had brought Andrew Hale into her life, she knew one thing for certain. Kindness, no matter how small, could change the world.